Buddhang saranam gacchami, Dhammang saranam gacchami, Sanghang saranam gacchami. Sīle patiṭṭhāya naro sapañño cittaṃ paññañca bhāvayaṃ ātāpe nipako bhikkhu so imaṃ vijate jataṃ. Friends, I am very happy to be here with you this afternoon to share the Dhamma with you. For this Dhamma talk, our topic is the difference between Samatha and Vipassana. Samatha means serenity, Vipassana means insight. So this is the difference between serenity and insight. As you know, we all have to understand the differences as differences and similarities as similarities. There are similarities and dissimilarities. You have to understand this clearly. I see there are some differences in meditation when we practice Buddhist meditation and non-Buddhist meditation. There are differences. We can't put these all together to the same basket. I see the difference between Samatha and Vipassana in the Buddhist tradition, Buddhist meditation itself. There are differences. Samatha and Vipassana, I see the difference. And also, as you know, even the time of the Buddha and even before the time of the Buddha, there were many rishis, sages, who practiced meditation, Samatha meditation, which is again difference. It is different from the teaching of the Buddha. There were several rishis like Alara Kalama, Uddakarama Buddha. Those were, they practiced meditation. They developed different jhana, but they couldn't attain enlightenment. No nibbana, no enlightenment. That is another difference, different meditation. And when we practice, we have to understand this Buddhist meditation, as we want to examine this today, Samatha and Vipassana. Samatha and Vipassana are not completely separate two different meditations. These are not two different meditations, but two levels of meditation. That is how we have to understand. Samatha, when we practice Samatha, then we can switch to insight. When we practice Samatha, we can go to insight. So these are not Samatha, Vipassana, not completely separate two types of meditation. Buddha has taught us this as tandem. This is called Yuganatha in Pali. Yuganatha meditation. In tandem, these two should go together, hand in hand. In order to practice insight, first one has to practice Samatha. Without serenity, without Samatha, nobody can practice Vipassana. At least for a couple of days, we have to practice serenity, Samatha. For some people, they want to understand this clear difference, just like clear-cut difference. They think that these are completely two different methods. Some, they want to understand from where they want to switch to the other one. When you practice samatha, where you switch to inside. They want to know this. And still some others, they want to know how extend you want to practice concentration to come to Vipassana. So, these are quite different to understand, difficult to understand. The best way to understand the difference is practice. It is through your own experience. You to understand this through your own experience. That is the best way to understand the difference. However, first I would like to give you an analogy, a story, to understand the difference between the two. Since analogical teaching, analogical explanations also help us a lot to understand things better, first I am going to give you an analogy. This is not from the original discourses. Whatever I am not talking about things from the original discourses, I want to say that this is not from the original discourses. Because I always emphasize the Dhamma from the original discourses. Here at Bhavana, we don't teach Dhamma from later works. We don't want such things. Dhamma taught by the Buddha is enough. We emphasize, we try to teach and practice according to the very word of the Buddha that is from the original discourses. So this analogy is not from the original discourses, but from my mind. That came to my mind one day while I was practicing. This analogy is, this is my analogy. Suppose there's a huge range of mountain which is a precipice, a cliff-like. This huge one, you can't climb to this. Nearby there is a village. The villagers are very simple, humble people. They are farmers. They have been living there from generation to generation. But none of them has seen the other side of the mountain. This huge mountain. None has seen the other side. One day, while they were working in their field, one farmer saw something glittering under a rock. And he went there and got this. And it was a block. It's a sort of golden plaque, in which he saw some scribbling, something written, some words which is not clear. Then he cleaned this and together with others they read this. This is the description of what is there, the other side of the mountain. In this golden plaque, it is very clearly explained the wonderful and marvelous things, the nature, the things, the other side of the mountain. Now this word spread all over the village. In the village, there are two groups of people. One group, now everybody wants to go to the other side, see this. They are excited. They want to go to the other side of the mountain to see this. Now they got together. As there are two groups, they met together separately. One group, they get together and they discussed to go to the other side. How? We have to dig a tunnel. They decided to dig the tunnel, which is a square-shaped tunnel. Square-shaped tunnel. And then they decided, they got together, they went to the mountain to dig the tunnel. When they went to the mountain, they did not want to clear up all the area, just they clear some area where they can reach the mountain. They directly went to the mountain and started to delve this mountain as a square-shaped tunnel. And the other group, they met there and they discussed, and they wanted to go there and dig the tunnel, but first they decided to go there and clean all over the area. They wanted to clean the foot of the mountain and that area, all things. They wanted to cut down the trees and they wanted to cut down the thorny brushes, all these brush piles. They did all this clean. They started to clean. They did not want to go to the mountain, but they first wanted to clean the area so that they all can go to the mountain. So, this is the difference. The first group, they did not want to clean many things around. They directly went to the mountain and started to, they cleaned to some extent, they cleaned, and then they went to the mountain and started to dig the mountain. That is how their insight practitioners, Vipassana practitioners, that is how they do. They do not develop all these jhana. They don't want to develop all the 8 jhanas. They practice, develop for some extent, and then they go to the mountain. They go to the huge mountain, and they start to practice and understand. They dig this tunnel. What is this tunnel? Four-sided, square-shaped tunnel. The square-shaped tunnel is the 4 establishments of mindfulness. 4 establishments of mindfulness. You have to start and then cut the tunnels in a square shape. Then when you dig this tunnel, you can understand different things inside. Then you take them out. You do not hold things. Do not keep things possessed. Give up everything, and go through. Penetrate. Go to the other side to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the other group, they wanted to clean things. That cleaning is samatha. You are cleaning. First you want to clean all the area. First you want to develop samatha. You want to get the first jhana, the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana, and then you want to go to the immaterial jhana. All these attainment. And then finally, if they have time, if they are alive, then they can do. If they are more mindful, they can switch their time. But that is what happened to the many rishis, sages in the past. They practice all these jhana, different jhanas, different absorptions, and they could not understand what insight is. So this is the difference. If you practice concentration meditation, serenity meditation for some extent, And then if you switch to inside, then you can go together like this, hand in hand. That is called Samatha Vipassana, together. In the scriptures it is said Yuganadha. That is the exact technique given by the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutta, establishments of mindfulness, where from the very beginning to the very end, Buddha shows this together. They both go together. Every step, every section, you can see Samatha first, then Vipassana. Samatha, Vipassana. Samatha, Vipassana. So that is how we have to practice. And then it is clear that there are two groups. Two groups are practicing, doing two different things. If you practice only one, but if you practice these two together, then it is easier. Then as the Buddha said, that is the way to practice. So what is this huge mountain? It is the ignorance. It is the problem. It is because of this huge mountain they couldn't see the other side. This huge mountain of ignorance is in front of you, everyone's. This huge mountain, ignorance is there. It is because of this ignorance that we are here now, in samsara. It is because of this ignorance that we are wandering in samsara. Once the Buddha said, Anamataggo ayang bhikkhave sansaro pubbha kotinna panyayati avicca nivarananam sattanam tanha sanyojana. This, the Buddha said, Anamataggoyam bhikkhave sansaro, monks, in this samsara, the first point, starting point, first point is not discernible. It cannot be seen. Of these beings who are hindered by ignorance. This is the problem. Hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. These are the first two points, two things. Ignorance and craving. It is because of hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving, we are wandering in samsara. Another occasion, he said, Ito pubbe avijja nahosi atta pacha sambhaviti. Nobody can say, Buddha says, nobody can say that the ignorance came to exist only from that particular day. Before that, there was no ignorance. When we refer to certain things in our life, you can say it came to exist on that particular day. We refer things and say, it is from that day that this came to exist. Before that, there was no such thing. Buddha says, referring to ignorance, nobody can say that ignorance came to exist on that particular day. There was no ignorance before that. So ignorance was from the time that we came to exist. Nobody knows that. The Buddha never wanted to find the beginning of this samsara. It is impossible. In such a way, such a lone way that we are wandering in this samsara. That is fact. One day, a group of students went to meet the Buddha. 16 students. Of them, one named Ajita, he asked, Kenassu nivuto loko, kenassu nappakasati, kissapi lepanam brusi, kinsu tassa mahabbayam. He put the questions to the Buddha. Kenasu niuto loko Bhante, with what this world is shrouded, covered. World means this is the world. According to Buddhism, you are the world. If you can understand yourselves, you can understand the world. World is not that over there. World is within. We Buddhists accept the world outside the external world as well. But basically, first and foremost, we have to understand the world within. Because whatever you talk about world, nothing but 4 elements or 6 elements. What are the 4 elements? Earth, water, heat, air. And if you want further, space and consciousness. All these 6 world means that. Whatever matter, material or immaterial, world means that. So if we can understand these 6 elements within, we know what is happening outside there. That is why the Buddha emphasized. Buddha wanted us to practice within, observe the breath first, and then these 5 aggregates. Then we can understand this. So the world, when the Buddha referred world, it is here, me, I, you are the world. So here, this student, Ajita, he asked, Kenasu niuto loko Bhante, with what the world is shrouded, covered. Kenasu na prakasati, why it is impossible for him to understand this, that he is covered. The world is covered. We are covered. Why can't we understand? Kissa bilepanam brusi, please tell me, with what the world is smeared, like something painted, you use some paint and paint is all over. You are painted like. With what? He asked, with what the world is painted, smeared. Then the 4th one, he asked 4 questions. 4 questions he asked. What is his great fear? The big fear. Great fear. Buddha answered. Buddha said, Avijjaya niuto loko. The world is shrouded, world is covered with avijja, ignorance. See, ignorance. World is covered with ignorance. Avijja niuto loko. Vevicca pamada na prakasati. It is because of stinginess and unmindfulness. One cannot understand that one is covered. Because of stinginess and unmindfulness, we cannot understand that world is covered. We are covered. Then jappa bilepanam brumi. I tell you, you are painted, you are smeared with craving. With craving, we all are smeared, painted like. Jappa bilepanam brumi. Dukkhang tassa mahabbayam. Dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, suffering, is the greatest fear. So here the Buddha said, we are covered with ignorance. You know, the teaching of the Buddha, the most profound, deep teaching is the teaching of dependent origination. That is called Paticca Samuppada in Pali. That is the deep teaching, Abhidharma. That is the real Abhidhamma taught by the Buddha. According to the dependent origination, the teaching of the dependent origination is this. Like Buddha said, one exists because of the other. That's the teaching. One exists because of the other. Things are interdependently exist. Nobody wants to create it. Things exist because of the other, interdependently. When this is, this come to be. When this is not, this does not come to be. That is the teaching. It's the principle. This principle can be applied to anything. So the Buddha wanted to apply this principle to understand the origination of dissatisfaction, suffering, and the cessation of dissatisfaction. Dukkha samudaya is the origination. And the dukkha nirodha. That is the cessation. So the arising, origination of dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. In order to understand this origination and the cessation, Buddha applied this dependent origination. Now, in the dependent origination, when it is applied for the understanding of origination of dukkha, the Buddha said, avijja paccaya sankhara. Avijja, ignorance. Ignorance, avijja paccaya sankhara. Dependent on ignorance, volitional formations come to be. Dependent on ignorance, volitional formations come to be. Dependent on volitional formations, consciousness come to be. Dependent on consciousness, mentality and materiality come to be. Dependent on mentality and materiality, six senses come to be. Dependent on six senses, contact come to be. Contact comes to be. Dependent on contact, feeling comes to be. Dependent on feeling, craving comes to be. Dependent on craving, attachment comes to be. Dependent on attachment, existence comes to be. Dependent on existence, birth comes to be. Dependent on birth, aging and death come to be. Dependent on aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and whole mass of suffering comes to be. That is the origination of suffering. That the Buddha wanted to understand. The Buddha revealed this later on. And the Buddha said, the cessation of dissatisfaction, cessation of suffering, it is through the entire cessation of ignorance, volitional formations come to cease. Through the cessation of volitional formations, consciousness come to cease. Through the cessation of consciousness, mentality and materiality come to cease. Through the cessation of mentality and materiality, six senses come to cease. Through the cessation of six senses, contact come to cease. Through the cessation of contact, feeling comes to cease. Through the cessation of feeling, craving comes to cease. Through the cessation of craving, attachment comes to cease. Through the cessation of attachment, existence comes to cease. Through the cessation of existence, birth comes to cease. Through the cessation of birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and the whole mass of suffering comes to cease. This is how the Buddha explained the dependent origination. Where the first thing that the Buddha said, ignorance. It is the huge mountain, ignorance. That should be understood. When the Buddha explained the first truth, first noble truth, not knowing, ignorance means not knowing. Buddha defined what ignorance is. Ignorance means not knowing. Not knowing what? Not knowing the first truth, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. Dukkhe ajnanam, not knowing the unsatisfactoriness. Then dukkha samudaya ajnanam, not knowing the origination of unsatisfactoriness. Dukkha nirodhe ajnanam, not knowing the cessation of unsatisfactoriness. Dukkha nirodha gamini patipada ajnanam, not knowing the way leading to the cessation of suffering, unsatisfactoriness. So, not knowing the Four Noble Truth means ignorance. This ignorance is to be removed, abandoned. For this, we have to practice. Ignorance, as I said, it is the huge mountain. In order to understand the other side, we have to make the tunnel. It's the square-shaped tunnel. That is the practicing of establishment of mindfulness. 4 establishments of mindfulness. When we practice, develop 4 establishments of mindfulness, we can understand things better. That is our Vipassana. That is how we have to practice Vipassana. Understanding clearly. For this, we need tools. Without tools, you cannot dig. What are the tools you want to dig the tunnel? Mindfulness is the first one. Mindfulness. Then we need clear comprehension. Mindfulness means giving attention to the object. Your awareness, alertness, earnestness. That is what is mindfulness. You know, the Buddha used the term sati for mindfulness. But in our language, we have to use different terms. Because Pali is a rich language. Mindfulness, attention, awareness, alertness, earnestness, all these terms are encompassed when the Buddha used the term sati, S-A-T-I. Very short word. And then clear comprehension. What is clear comprehension? These are the tools we want to develop our Vipassana. Clear comprehension. You know, comprehension, understanding. Clearly, understand clearly. What is to be understood clearly? Your object of your meditation. First you have to understand very clearly your breath. The breath has different steps. There are 16 steps according to the Anapanasati Sutta, mindfulness of breathing discourse. And In some other discourses, like in Samyutta, you find Kimbila Sutta, Ananda Sutta, like that, in which the Buddha explained 16 steps of breath. You can read these discourses and practice accordingly. That is how we have to practice. So then we can understand what this ignorance is. When we practice both serenity and insight together, we can understand these things. So, to practice, when practice, there are three things to be practiced. Three things to be practiced for the completion of for the development of the path. Completion, clearance, need to practice three things. You know, in the Four Noble Truths, the first truth is to be comprehended. It is to be understood. The second truth, to be abandoned. That is craving. It is to be abandoned. Then the third truth, to be realized. Then the fourth truth, it is the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. It is to be developed. To develop the path, we have to practice. When we practice, as I said, there are three things to be practiced. What are the three things? Morality, meditation or concentration, and wisdom. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. These are called trainings. Training. We train this. In order to train, in order to develop this, we have to understand our sila, morality, which is very important. It is the foundation. That is why you all observe 8 precepts last night. Precept, sila, is very important for your practice. Because it is on that ground, on that sort of foundation, it is the foundation. On that foundation, we have to build the house. If the foundation is weak, you know what happened to your house. That is why sila is that important. Morality. Sila. Then if you have a good sila, good morality, sila, then you can practice, then you can develop your samadhi, concentration. Because it gives you extra energy, that you know that you are purified, sort of purified. Your purity, you know better. Purity, once the Buddha said, purity and impurity depends on oneself. Nobody else can purify another. Everyone has to understand one's own purity or impurity. So if your mind is pure mind, clear mind, that you are quite refrained from unwholesome deeds, and you are observing some wholesome things, then your mind is clear. That mind is called kusala. Kusala means no impurities. In which there are no impurities. You can develop that mind further. That is the mind that comes to the state of serenity, samadhi. When you have samadhi, samatha, then you come to the next step, that is panya, vipassana. Panya and vipassana are synonyms. Panya means wisdom. So, wisdom and insight are synonyms. When you develop concentration, then when you develop wisdom, you can see through. You can penetrate. That is panya. So these are the three things to be practiced. When you practice these three things, you are practicing simultaneously you are practicing the path. You are developing the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path, when practiced in this manner, we can understand both serenity and insight. Serenity is Samatha. The Samatha, the Buddha explained on different occasions. Buddha has very clearly explained what Samatha is. Samatha, the traditional definition is Sametiti Samatho. Sameti, the calming. Calming itself is calmness. Calming itself is calmness. Samatha means calmness. Calm in your body. When you practice, you have to calm your body, calm your mind, so that it comes to the state serenity, calmness. That is Samatha. Once the Buddha said, Samadhing bhikkhave bhavetha. Monks, develop concentration, serenity. Samadhing bhikkhave bhavetha. Samahito bhikkhu yatha bhutang pajanati. When concentrated practitioner sees things as they really are. Samahito bhikkhu yatha bhutang pajanati. Yatha bhuta means things as they are. What can he see as they are? He can see this form. Buddha said, Rupasa samudayancha attagamancha. He can see this body, this form. Samudaya, arising, attagama, the perishing. The nature of arising and the nature of perishing. He can see this because of the concentration of his mind. Through concentrated mind, he can see this. Vedanaya samudayancha attagamancha, the feeling. He can see the arising and perishing nature of Vedana, feeling. Sanyaya samudayancha attagamancha, sanya, the perception. He can see the arising and perishing nature of perception. Sankharanam samudayancha attagamancha, the volitional formations. Arising and perishing nature of volitional formations. And Vijñānas samudayancha attagamancha. And he can understand the arising and perishing nature of Vijñāna. Vijñāna means consciousness. Concentration or samatha or samadhi, there is samadhi called right samadhi, right concentration. You know, in the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, the eighth one is called right concentration. In Pali, Samma Samadhi. Samma Samadhi, that is called right concentration. In order to develop right concentration, in the Mahachattārisaka Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length sayings, the Buddha very clearly said, concentration, right concentration means concentration that is supported by the first 7 factors of the Eightfold Path. You know the Eightfold Path, there are 8 factors. For the completion, for the concentration to be a right concentration, first 7 factors should support this. Concentration supported by the first 7 factors of the Eightfold Path is called right concentration. This is very interesting. You can read this discourse, Chattārisaka Sutta. So this is how we have to understand concentration. One day, a certain deity came to the Buddha and asked Bhante, when how many asleep, how many are awake? When how many are awake, how many are asleep? By how many one gathers dust? By how many one is purified? Many deities came to the Buddha. They came to the Buddha to listen to his sermons. This particular deity said this. When how many are asleep, how many are awake? Buddha said, when 5 are asleep, 5 are awake. When 5 are awake, 5 are asleep. What are these 5? 5 are 5 hindrances. When the 5 hindrances are awake, they are there. 5 hindrances are awake. 5 faculties. We have 5 faculties. 5 faculties are asleep. When the 5 faculties are awake, then 5 hindrances are asleep. The Buddha said. And Buddha said, it is because of 5 things that it gathers dust. What are the 5 things? 5 hindrances. And by 5 things, Buddha said, by 5 things one is purified. What are the 5 things? 5 faculties. There are 5 faculties. Like we have eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. These are called faculties. But in this case, 5 faculties are not this eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. 5 faculties means confidence. These are the most important thing to be developed. Confidence, shraddha, energy, virya, mindfulness, sati, concentration, samadhi, wisdom, panya. These are called 5 faculties. When these 5 are awake, hindrances are asleep. If not, for most of us, what happens? 5 hindrances are awake all the time, which gathers dust, rust, garbage, many things, because of 5 hindrances. As long as we have 5 hindrances, we cannot come to the state of serenity. We have to subdue these 5 hindrances. Once hindrances are subdued, you can come to the state of serenity, samatha. That is what is called samatha. When you develop samatha meditation, you can develop jhana. 4 jhanas first, which are called material jhana. And then you can develop further 4 which are called immaterial jhana. But still not the attainment of enlightenment. Still you have not come to the state of insight. Even though you have developed all these jhana. Insight is different. When you practice jhana, you can develop different knowledge, like power, different powers. Knowledge to perform miracles, that is called miraculous power. You can develop the mind to see others' mind. You can develop mind to read your previous lives. You can develop mind to understand how beings are born to this world. They come from other planets to this world. How beings depart here and are born in other planets. You can see these things. And you can even listen to the sounds far away. Even divine sound. These are different knowledges, which are worldly knowledges. Buddha, the uniqueness of the teaching of the Buddha is the next knowledge, which is called knowledge to destruct all defilements. Asava khaya jnana. Asava khaya is to destroy all asava. defilements, cancers. Those are the results of practicing jhana, practicing samatha. When you come to insight, what is insight? What is vipassana? Vipassana, two terms, two words together. Vipassana, join, combine. Vipassana means you see through, penetrate, see through, vipassana. There are two definitions. Vividena passati, visesena passati. Vividena passati, you see things vividly, differently, separately, not like block. You know, when we see things, we always see things as a block. If we can demolish this, mentally, if we can analyze things, that is what is vipassana. Vividena passati. And visesena passati vipassana. Visesa is special. You see especially. What do you see especially? When you see especially, what can you see? You can see things are changing. You can see everything is ever changing. You can see that things as they are changing, if we grasp this, it's suffering. You have to suffer. Then in the process of this changing, ever-changing nature, there is no unchanging block. There is no unchanging entity, substance to be grasped as soul or self. That you can understand. So this means three characteristics of existence of all animate and inanimate things. You can understand everything is impermanent, everything is unsatisfactory, everything is without a self. With that understanding, you can come to the state of stream enterer. Then you can understand the Four Noble Truths, the dependent originations as well. Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, and the three characteristics of existence are the most important teachings of the Buddha. Three principles. You can understand this. You can realize, of course, this is not mere understanding, but experience. That is through your experience of wisdom. You see these things. With that you become a stream enterer. Then you can understand. You yourself can understand that this is the time that I cut off my sansaric life to maximum 7 lifetimes. From this day I will never be born in hell. I will never be born in animal realm, hungry ghosts. That you can understand. And it is certain, definitely, I will be able to attain enlightenment. That you can understand this. With that you cut off 3 fetters. You know, there are 10 fetters through which we are bound to samsara. Of the 10, he or she cuts off first 3. Then if you can further develop, if you can further practice, then you can attenuate, you can weaken next two fetters and become a stream, once returner. Then you return here only one time. Then if you can completely cut off these first 5 fetters, which are called lower fetters, then you become a non-returner. You never come here. You never want to come here. Enough. You never come to this world. You will be born in heaven, which is called pure abodes. There are 5 different realms. You are born there. And if you completely cut off all the 10 fetters, release, you know that you are released. Your mind is released. That is called vimutta, liberation. That is the attainment of enlightenment. So of the 10 fetters, the last one is avijja, ignorance. The last to go is avijja, last to go is ignorance. So if we can do this, we all can become the enlightened ones. If you practice, develop, that is the goal. That is our goal. So let's understand how to practice. Let's understand the difference between Samatha and Vipassana. When practice Samatha, you are supposed to practice, observe, give your attention only to one object. When you practice Vipassana, you can see, you can observe any object that comes to your mind through these six senses. That is the basic difference. When you practice Samatha, it's a way that you can develop all this jhana. But when you practice inside, day by day, moment by moment, of course, you are reaching, you are stepping to the goal. Let's understand this practice and let's practice further. So, within these couple of days, try to be here, grounded, very well grounded. Not to take many stuff from the past, like dung beetles. Don't keep things in front of you and thinking. I see some of you still take many things from your office and home, and still you are fighting with this and fighting with other people, with some people, and opening different folders, and still you are working there, not here. Please practice, develop, so that we all can reach the goal. That is the perfect peace, perfect happiness of Nibbana. May we all attain perfect peace, perfect happiness of Nibbana.